Committee on Finance and Campus Planning, Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you, Chairman Day. Good morning and Happy New Year to everyone. Will the Joint Committee on Finance and Campus Buildings and Grounds please come to order? There is one request for public comment. The speaker will have 3 minutes, excuse me, to address the board, and that speaker is Ejmin Habokian.
Almost there. It's Ejmin Hakobian. Thank you. And I'm here to share my personal opinion. Donors and the legislatures and the taxpayers trust you with the funds, and they give you a budget to use effectively for a very simple mission: educate the students. It sounds simple, but when administrators, not all of them, when the administrators see a budget, the first thing it seems like they're doing is to increase their personal profile and use it as a marketing tool to get closer to the local politicians, newspapers, and just for their own personal purpose, in my opinion. So I've noticed, especially at Cal State LA, it seems like we never have funding to, let's say, fix the ceiling tiles of the King Hall. This is the largest hall, largest building on one of the largest buildings on our campus. It seems like the elevators are always busted up. It looks run down. And it seems like we never have funds to fix that building, Salazar Hall. There are a bunch of them. But it was announced that they have another annex in Alhambra. The President Covino opened up the Global Leadership Center at downtown LA, which I don't know how many students are attending. We have a Global Leadership Center while our students, graduate students, are struggling to get decent paying jobs. But that building was very useful for President Covino to get closer to Mayor Garcetti. Is that the mission of the CSU? Is that how you're supposed to be using these funds? What I'm trying to say is you need to open up the board for criticism first and learn from your dissent soon and change the tactics. And when people are showing up to this board, and it's not easy to take a personal time off for the past 8 months and drive here. It's not easy for everyone to come here and share their concerns with you. But when they do, you should take them seriously. And these are public funds. It shouldn't be used for personal gain. And Chancellor White, please start doing your job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hakobian. It is now time for the committee to consider today's consent agenda, which consists only of the November 2018 committee minutes. Does any committee member wish to remove this item for further discussion? No. Seeing a resounding no, there are no objections. So, hearing none, I will approve the consent agenda. The committee has only one item on today's discussion, and that's item 2. It is an action item requesting final approval of a public-private partnership student housing development project at California State University, Sacramento. The item will be presented by Steve Relia, Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officer, President Robert Nelson, Vice San Juan, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Capital Planning, Design, and Construction, and Robert Eaton, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Financing, Treasury, and Risk Management. Steve, would you please begin?
Thank you, Chair Nylon. Over the past several years, we've been increasing our public-private partnership initiatives with great success. The project before you is yet another opportunity to help the Sacramento State campus meet its capital needs in an effective and financially responsible manner. Now, as a reminder, in September of 2017, the board approved the Sac State South Campus Student Housing Project. This item returns to the board for the approval of the final development agreement and related actions on this project, including adoption of the mitigated negative declaration, amendment of the 2018-2019 capital outlay program, and approval of the schematic design. I will now hand it over to President Nelson to introduce this item. President Nelson.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Raylia. As you just heard at the September 2017 board meeting, you approved the concept of the South Campus Student Housing Public-Private Partnership Project. Today, I'm requesting final approval to enter into a ground lease agreement with a private development partner, Greystar Real Estate Partners, that will enable University Enterprises Incorporated, a campus auxiliary, to lease the land to the developer and construct student housing facilities to serve the mission of the university. Sacramento State's existing student housing, which comprises approximately 2,000 beds, is oriented towards first and second year students. This project will address a demonstrated need for on-campus upper division housing. This housing will support our graduation initiative while providing our students with academic enrichment. With the participation of Student Affairs, this new housing will engage the resident students in the campus community and enhance their learning experience, thereby contributing to our goal of improving retention and graduation rates. This project will also be a rare opportunity to expand our landlocked campus by 11.5 acres, serving as a catalyst for the area and for our region. Thank you for your consideration of this project. I will now hand it over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Vi San Juan to provide additional details on the proposed project. Vi?
Thank you, President Nelson. I'll start with a description of the project and then turn it over to Robert for the deal terms. The proposed project, it will be designed for upper division students and will consist of approximately 360,000 square feet with 284 apartment-style units for a total of 1,100 beds in 6 four-story buildings. The project will also include a one-story amenity building and 546 parking spaces and will be developed on 13 acres of land situated along the southeast boundary of the campus. 11.5 acres of the site is owned by the City of Sacramento and currently leased to a youth baseball league and a senior men's baseball league. As part of the project transaction, University Enterprises Incorporated and the proposed development partner, Greystar, will construct replacement ball fields for the leagues at another site provided by the city, at which point University Enterprises will exercise its purchase option and buy the 11.5 acres from the city. So once the ball fields are relocated, the 11.5 acres will move to Auxiliary Enterprises, University Enterprises. These 11.5 acres will be combined with an adjacent 1.5 acre parcel owned by the campus, which will be leased to the auxiliary, and the project will be developed on the combined 13 acres. The current cost of the project is estimated at about $164 million. This is the master plan for Sacramento State. This is the southernmost corner of the campus marked with a 1. On this map indicates the location of the 1.5 acre campus parcel that is adjacent to the 11.5 acre site, which is shown by the dashed lines that's being acquired from the City of Sacramento. So the dashed lines in black. This is the next slide is the rendered view of the proposed student housing project. This view is taken from the southern boundary, Highway 50, looking northwest to the central campus. The project is pedestrian friendly for students and should reduce vehicle traffic coming onto the campus. The project will be LEED Silver equivalent, and I'll turn the presentation over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton.
Thank you, Vi. As President Nelson noted in his remarks, the proposed development partner for the project will be Greystar Real Estate Partners, LLC, which was selected through a competitive bid process based upon its strong expertise in student housing development and management, financial strength and capability, favorable financial considerations, and the long-term commitment to maintaining project ownership, investment, and partnership with the campus and University Enterprises Incorporated. Key terms of the proposed agreement with Greystar will call for a ground lease of 85 years with no option to extend. And Greystar will be responsible for financing, constructing, operating, and maintaining the project throughout the life of the lease. Greystar will reimburse University Enterprises Incorporated for the costs associated with acquiring the 11.5 acres from the city, which includes $2.5 million for the acquisition price, as well as other transaction costs. The $9 million cost of the replacement ball fields will be shared, with $5 million coming from Greystar and $4 million coming from University Enterprises Incorporated. The base ground rent will be 7.25% of total revenues, which is projected to be approximately $950,000 in the first year of operations. And University Enterprises Incorporated will have the right to purchase the facility in the event Greystar elects to sell its interest in the project prior to the end of the lease term. Let me now turn the presentation back over to Executive Vice Chancellor Rallier for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Robert. As we've shared with you in prior meetings, public-private partnerships are playing an important and ever-increasing role in our ability to meet the CSU's capital needs. This project is an excellent example of the unique value a public-private partnership structure can bring to a campus and meet the needs of our students. Staff recommends approval of the proposed development agreement and the related actions presented in the item. Chair Nylund, that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you all for your presentations. I have a couple questions. I'm sure others may as well. First of all, I love this concept. The whole idea of building CSU assets with other people's money is a wonderful idea. Two things, one of which is as we build these ball fields, will we have any ongoing responsibility for maintenance or upkeep of these two new ball fields?
I don't believe so. No, we won't.
Okay, and second of all, I note that we're going to replace the Upper East Side lofts, so the net new beds is about 700 versus the 1,100 minus, of course, the 400. Is there any discussion on why these Upper East Side lofts need to be eliminated?
I think the campus felt these would be better suited, a little closer to the campus, but I'll ask President Nelson to comment and confirm.
The Upper East Side lofts are not excellent apartments for our students in any form or fashion. They are farther away from the campus, and they really don't serve the purpose. We have had a hard time even filling them at times, and they have not been cost efficient in any form or fashion for us.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Trustee McGrory?
On these public-private partnerships, on this one, you basically have about we'd have a $5 million basis in the project when you look at the cost of the ball fields, and we would get about $950,000 a year in terms of 7.25%.
Yeah, we're also getting on the reimbursement for the acquisition as well. That I noted there's about $2.5 million there, plus there's other acquisition costs and transaction costs. That total is just over it's about $5.7 million all in that we're receiving from Greystar. That's a reimbursement. So that reimbursement, their $5 million contribution to the cost of the ball fields, replacement ball fields, plus the revenue stream, all that combined is kind of the consideration for the site acquisition for us in the project.
So what would you say our basis in this is? Because we have a cost associated with the ball fields?
Yeah, well, we'll get reimbursed on that. So at this point, all in, it would be about the $4 million that we're going to contribute to the replacement ball fields.
Okay. And then we'll get about $950,000 a year, which will grow at some 2 or 3% probably.
Yeah, there's provisions in there for escalation on that.
Do we ever
percentage of the revenues?
Do we ever participate in the upside over some number once they get a return?
There are times on these public-private partnerships where we will negotiate the ground rent structure where we will take a share, as you put it, the upside, whatever is the net revenue. That's a choice that we make depending on the project characteristics. Sometimes we say, no, we just want a percentage off the top, and we'll live with that. Other times we will take a little bit more of that upside, but of course, as you know, there's more risk in that because if the operations of the project do not pan out the way we expect, then we may not get as much revenue if we had taken something off the top. So in this case, we chose to take it off the top, plus the consideration we're getting in the reimbursement on the acquisition and the replacement ball fields, the $5 million contribution. So.
And then the developer is obligated to pay all the development impact fees to the city or the county, whoever is collecting them?
That's correct.
And possessory interest tax?
That's correct.
Okay. Good. Great.
Trustee Carney, please.
Thank you. Not all P3s are structured the same. And this one, the developer's putting up all the money and will own and operate for 85 years unless it decides to sell, in which case the campus would have a right of first refusal. So does that mean that the developer alone sets the student rents?
No. As part of the agreement, the rents will be competitive with campus housing that's already on the campus. That's one. So the rents will be constrained in that regard with the existing housing on campus. Also, the campus and the auxiliary will be part of an advisory board that will, among other things, will have the opportunity to review rents and make sure that they remain competitive. Now, there is a balance that must be maintained between the competitiveness and affordability for students versus the financial viability of the project. But the campus will have a say in that regard.
Good, and it is compared to other campus housing, not to market rates generally.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Trustee Fong?
I would like to go back to the Upper East Side lofts. So the master lease expires in 2022. Will we have a housing shortage because we'll be losing those 400 beds?
That's hard to say. They are 400 beds that are currently occupied right now. Our hope is to be able to expand housing as we move forward in the future. This was a long-term lease, and the lease is ending at that point. So we hope to be able to expand housing even beyond where we are at this point.
Also, the completion of this project may be before, scheduled for May of 2021. Hopefully that'll hold, so it'll be completed before the lease runs out. Okay.
Any other questions? The item, final approval of a public-private partnership student housing development project at California State University, Sacramento, is an action item before the Joint Committee on Finance and Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds. Only committee members may vote. May I have a motion? There's a motion and a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Chairman Day, this concludes the business of the Joint Committee on Finance and Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Nyland. Chair Nyland, excuse me. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so we're going